Plan Commission. And then as to Alderperson Johnson, so ultimately the applicant needs to get a conditional use permit to do the storage units. But before that can be done, storage units have to be an eligible use or an acceptable use, which means the property has to be zoned industrial. But before we can zone industrial, the comp plan says this area should be commercial. So we need to make an adjustment to the comp plan saying that this comp plan, future land use for this parcel, for this area will be industrial. So that was the action. I guess we're backing up the steps. So the motion or the action from the Plan Commission, the first step is to amend the comprehensive plan. So that would be what this is, going back to look at that first step of amending the comprehensive plan.
So, but if the comp plan, not necessarily like the zoning.
You need to do the comp
qualifies
plan.
under zoning.
Correct. So in order to even be eligible for the CUP, you need the zoning. And even before you start the zoning process, you need the underlying comp plan. So that's where we're starting at.
Right.
And we do not want to turn to industrial, light industrial, because we have no guarantee that the present owners will stay there, and then who knows what we could end up in there, because it's all around there, it's residential, and the residents do not want it industrial either. So that's where we're standing, so it's like a standoff, but trying to work something, because I talked to the two gentlemen, and when they were in Minnesota, the same type of situation, and they did put a additional use for them. They allowed them in residential or commercial, I should say. Thank you.
We do have a motion on the floor to refer back to staff. Alder from the first.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just would like a little bit more explanation from plan. So you, okay, and from Alder Lefebvre, you don't want it to be industrial. Right. You don't. So to deny the request means you would want to approve that then. That's the request to turn it from commercial to industrial, and you don't want that. I mean, is this is motion?
Right. Right. I would approve this.
You would approve this motion.
Yes.
But you'd like the whole. Maybe you should just write it in communication. Maybe I could withdraw my second to the amendment. And if you want to withdraw yours,
yeah,
and maybe just a whole new communication, because it looks like this is exactly what you're saying, but then you want something different. Okay. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, I withdraw myself.
Okay, and you choose.
Yeah, I withdraw.
Motion's been withdrawn. Motion to approve item 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved. Item has been approved. Report of the Public Arts Commission, April 24, 2019.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Alder from the 7th to approve.
Second.
Seconded by Alder from the 1st to approve Report L, which is a report of the Public Arts Commission from the meeting on April 24, 2019. Any items under this report you wish to handle separately?
1.
Item 1 will be handled separately. Hearing no others, all in favor of approving the remainder of that report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved with the exception of item 1. What are your wishes regarding item 1? Second. Alder from the 7th makes a motion to approve item 1, seconded by Alder from the 10th. Any speakers on this item?
Alder Johnson.
Alder from the 9th.
I would move that we refer this back to staff. I think it was prematurely moved out of committee. And before we can kind of put this in front of council, I think we need some guidelines and direction in terms of how this program would specifically be monitored and managed. So refer back to staff for additional work.
Staff or the committee?
I think staff's going to have to be the one that does the work to bring it to the commission.
Motion on the floor.
Second. Motion to refer staff.
Second.
Made by Alder from the 9th, seconded by Alder from the 7th. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Item M, report of the Traffic, Bicycle, and Pedestrian Commission. April
Second.
15th, 2019. Motion made by Alder from the 5th, second by Alder from the 7th, to approve report M, which is the report of the Traffic, Bicycle, and Pedestrian Commission from the meeting on April 15, 2019. Any items under this report you wish to handle separately?
Number 1.
Item number 1
The other one.
will be handled separately. Hearing no others, all in favor of approving the remainder of that report, please signify by saying aye. Aye. This was a trick, wasn't it?
Yes.
Alder, would you like to speak to item 1?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a motion to refer back. There were members of the neighborhood association. A couple of them could not make it that night. And I think there was only one person there, and he didn't know he was supposed to. He hadn't really speak on it. So I'm just going to make this motion to refer back for further discussion.
Second.
Motion made to refer back to committee, made by Alder from the 8th, seconded by Alder from the 7th. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And report of the Sustainability Commission, April 10, 2019.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Alder from the 7th, seconded by Alder from the 1st, to approve report M, which is the report of the Sustainability Commission from the meeting on April 10, 2019. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Report has been approved. Receive and place on file. What are your wishes regarding this report?
Motion to receive and place on file. Second.
Motion made to receive and place on file by Alder from the 7th, seconded by Alder from the 10th. To receive and place on file the building permit report for April 2019. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving that report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The report has been received and placed on file. Resolutions. The clerk will read the statement.
You may under suspension of the rules adopt resolutions 1 through 4 together with one roll call vote.
Second. Motion to suspend the rules made by Alder from the 7th, seconded by Alder from the 11th. To suspend the rules and take up these items with one roll call vote. All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The rules are suspended. I'll entertain a motion to adopt resolutions
Motion to
1
adopt.
through 4.
Second.
Motion made by Alder from the 7th, seconded by Alder from the 1st, to adopt resolutions 1 through 4. Please use the board. Those pass unanimously. Q, referral of petitions and communications. Alder from the 12th.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I had placed the communication through to the Protection Policy Committee. I just want to ensure that it gets put on the agenda for this meeting. It was held a couple times, but I want to read it for the public record. And if it could be on the next agenda, I would appreciate it. I talked to the clerk and she still has this communication, but I still want to read it. For the city to develop a resolution or policy and procedure to notify property owners near parcels of land with a pending or approved application to be transferred from fee to trust status. My overarching concern is for the city and the Oneida Nation in goodwill to notify affected property owners of the new governing jurisdiction, code enforcement, and zoning authority of the parcel recently transferred or applied to be transferred, and to provide an official forum for public input and comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. Any other communications? Alder from the 2nd.
This is for Traffic, Bicycle, and Pedestrian Commission. Request for study to paint solid yellow lines, no passing lines, down the center of the road, and add a pedestrian bike lane to help curb the speeding issues on Ontario. And then also a study to be done to determine if a stop sign should be installed on Ontario at either Winland or East Breeze to help speeding issues.
Thank you, Alder. Clerk, do you have any late communications?
I do not.
Alder from the 6th.
Okay, I got a request to, and I want to, do you prefer to the staff or should I do it to the planning commission? My request on the storage unit. What would be the best?
Dr. Vaughn?
Sure, I would put it to planning commission, and planning commission can discuss and decide whether they want to refer to staff or not.
Okay, to the planning commission. My request is I would like to look at, having a look again for the property at 1725 North Urban Avenue, storage units request. Looking for an exception to allow the expansion on the property in the commercial district. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. Any other communications?
I do not.
I'll entertain a motion to refer all
So
petitions
moved.
and communications. Motion made by Alder from the 7th, seconded by Alder from the 5th. To refer all late petitions and communications to the proper authority. All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and those petitions and communications have been referred. Our committee of the whole. Before us is an update with possible action on the purchase of real property at 227 North Quincy Street, 221 North Quincy Street, 624-626 Pine Street, 618 Pine Street, 616 Pine Street, and 605 Cherry Street, tax parcels 11-156, 11-157, 11-158, 11-159, 11-160, and 11-191. This item, as I said, is on the agenda for an update. We'll hear from Development Director Blanc first, and if you have any questions or would like to discuss matters pertaining to competitive or bargaining purposes, we can move into closed session at that time. Director Blanc.
Thank you, Mayor. So this, what we're talking about is the Associated Bank parking lot. Came to council in December of 2018, looking to exercise an option to purchase that the city had with Associated, going back to our development agreement in 2012. We were at a point where we were looking to gain site control of the property, and really just based on timing, the only way that we were able to do that was to exercise that option to purchase and move forward with the purchase. We discussed this in closed session, and then staff was given some direction as far as how to proceed. We discussed this also at RDA today. In short, we have an executed purchase and sale agreement to purchase the property for $1.2 million with a closing date to be done as soon as possible. I think one of the things that we had discussed is trying to work out some type of deal with the county in terms of being able to provide parking that would accommodate their needs. I think with the transition, the new mayor has reached out to the county executive, had some further discussion. Attorney Chavez has reached out to Corporation Counsel Henry. Additional discussions about the logistics, mechanics of doing so. With that, as far as the city moving ahead with that option to purchase, we're pretty much locked in to do that, unless the council would like to discuss and debate taking a different direction. But I think, given advice from the RDA and the initial conversation that we had, the objective would be to move forward with that purchase. But with that, we would follow up and continue those conversations with the county to look at working out potentially some type of parking agreement. I think in discussions with Public Works, looking at what our market rate is for surface lot parking, we'd be able to park this lot. There's 319 spaces that would definitely park it in a way that would take care of our debt service and provide some additional funds for maintenance of this facility. Again, though, I think our objective in purchasing it was pretty clear that this is a short-term parking solution, but a long-term development opportunity. I think when we talked about this, it's not often you're able to gain control of a full city block in the downtown area, and in terms of securing both private or potentially public development interests, it was in our best interest to pursue. So with that, that is the update. We've had some conversations with the bank last week, and I think they are ready to close on the property. But again, wanted requested the mayor to provide an update of where we're at. Again, as the mayor said, if there's anything in terms of further negotiations that you wanted to discuss, I mean, there's closed session language available on here, but otherwise our intent is to move forward with the closure of the property.
Thank you, Director. Any further comments?
Quick question.
Yeah, Alder from the 11th.
It's for Dr. Bonk. Will this property cash flow out as far as the parking? Is that strictly what's going to be the vehicle that pays for that service? And where is the money coming from?
Sure. So we have not had to draw the funds yet, and that is with some further discussion with our finance director in terms of what we'll actually have to borrow for versus what we might have available for cash on hand. With that, if you look at the 319 spaces, you look and we'll look at Director Neer. I think our market rate, current market rate for city surface lots is somewhere between $35 and $40 a month. With that, we would need to rent out between 213 and 244 spaces in order to make that cash flow and pay the debt service. Based on our conversations, whether with the county or there's actually some private entities who are interested in leasing spaces there, we feel we'd be able to more than fulfill that number and provide for the cash flow on that. I think that was one of the things that is important when we look at acquiring property, both the short-term and long-term goals. Strategically, this is a long-term win for the city in terms of the development along that corridor, but also we're not in the long-term business of holding property, so how do we maintain it in the short term? And we believe in discussion with their development team that we would have sufficient revenues to cover that debt service.
On the, are we looking to borrow the whole amount? Are we looking to borrow the whole amount?
Potentially, I guess it'll defer to our finance director. We have not had to pull it yet, but that'd be one of the things, again, trying to work with Associated in terms of where that may be. I know she's been working on cash flows for this year, so I guess I would defer to her in terms of when that borrowing might occur.
Together we have to still come up with the plan, but it could be various sources. It could be either TIP funding. It could be, still talking about working with the parking division. We also could float the money for a few months, and then as we borrow for the 2019 bonding, that could be part of the bonding request for 2019. So it hasn't been, we weren't sure if this agreement was going to go all the way through, so we've not gone through all the steps of deciding what kind of borrowing we would move forward with.
Let's just say we borrow $1 million, we'd be looking at probably about $42,000 a year on interest. Is that correct? From what we borrowed from the last, I think we borrowed it for the babies, we've got at 4.25% with the interest. So we'll be looking at about right around 40, maybe 42,000 per million to do that.
Yeah, roughly. So we ran our calcs at a 1.2 million loan at 4 3/4 interest, and we did that over 20 years, and roughly that came out then to an annual payment just over $102,000. And then just based on, again, the rates that we discussed in terms of what was needed to cash flow, there's 319 spaces there. If we get between the $35 and $40 range per month, you're looking at around between 210, 240 spaces that need to be leased.
We're not looking for a long-term commitment as far as parking. We're looking for more development down the road.
Yeah, I think, the initial agreement book probably wouldn't look longer than a year with options to renew for a year, or a period of, if a developer would come in, a 90-day termination period, that we'd be able to move quickly onto that. And I think we've been upfront with those who have been interested in leasing the spaces, that they understand that's what they're getting into.
That answers my question. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Alderman Kent?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm encouraged by the discussions between the mayor and the county exec on this. I think it is a viable piece of property. I think that we're doing due diligence on this, and I'm happy with how that's going. So I would say continue on this tack. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. Alder from the 7th.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just have one question, and I don't recall us discussing this in the past. If we have, please forgive my memory and refresh it. But part of the equation, the plan, for filling the lot and paying for the lot has to do with the county, and that parking is already downtown though. So are we in some sense robbing Peter to pay Paul? Has it been factored in what this does to the other ramps and everything? How are we expecting to build those back up? So it's not a problem. Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? An appropriate motion would be to accept the update from the development director.
Motion to accept.
Motion made by Alder from the 7th, seconded by Alder from the 5th to accept the update from the development director. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Motion to adjourn.
The ayes have it, and the motion has been approved. We still have item 27 from the report of the Protection and Policy Committee.
He's almost ready. How about we refer it back?
Time sensitive?
So moved.
Motion made by Alder from the 8th, seconded by...
Discussion.
I have a question.
Just 1 second.
Time sensitive. Well, that's...
Attorney Chavez?
So the problem we're running into is that the recommendation to non-renew is time sensitive. With that, the non-renewal, we are obligated to provide an opportunity. They have 10 days after we submit notice to them, and they have 10 days after that to request a full and evidentiary hearing. So if the person is unable to make it tonight, they are still able to ask for a hearing to appear before this.
They still have an opportunity to pay that. Let's just make a motion to deny.
Motion made by Alder from the 7th to deny, seconded by Alder from the 8th. All in favor of said motion, signify by saying aye.
Mary.
Alder from the 12th.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't want to set a precedent. When we have public meetings, we have agenda items and we expect the public to be here. But on this situation, if the gentleman's on his way and this is sort of his livelihood, I know he has an additional appeal process, but we could just hold for 5 minutes, just out of respect to this person. We don't know the situation he was facing.
Is there a motion?
Motion to recess for 5 minutes. I mean, unless, can you ask the gentleman if he's literally on the way here?
Seconded by Alder from the 1st.
He's from Two Rivers, so he said he's in Green Bay right now, but I don't know, it will take like...
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. We're in recess for 5 minutes.
My son asked about you. Yeah, 20 foot truck.
Usually doesn't work in there.
What's up? I'll take
You know, we were hearing some feedback. Get in on this. Because I can do this. That's straight into it. And then you escape that whole closed caption. I'm sorry, what were you hearing? Feedback. When it was up here. Oh, no, there was no. That's not putting out any. I would never put out any audio. It's got a microphone in it, but it doesn't play. In fact, I'm hard lined in back through the box over there this time. Okay. Yeah. I'm off the mics this time. Yeah. I had a TV guy come in and set it up for me. Oh, did you? Oh, I don't know. Yeah. I'm just trying to take the pressure off the whole live, no closed caption thing. If I'm doing it, you're not hearing any complaints. Yeah.
They do record the concert, but they don't record.
Oh, really?
There's an abundance of shortest bit. Never have I gone down.
Today would have been a good day, but I got I should have pulled the floor out.
See, that might feedback. Not my feedback.
And we are back. Motion made by Alderman first, seconded by Alderman fifth to return to the business of the council. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Entertain a motion to open.
Motion open the floor.
Motion made by Alderman the seventh, seconded by Alderman the 10th to open the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. The floor is open. Sir, if you could just state your name and address.
Yeah, my name is Marco M. Laporta, and address is 2303 Washington Street, Turtle River, Wisconsin. I'm here in representation of Presidente LLC. Sorry for the delay. I was not even aware of this situation going on, and I just was notified because there was some person that went to the restaurant and notified us that there was this going on. I really need to know the real reason why they will take the license away from us. We had a company working for us. There was the Bleeding Entertainment. They did a complete mess of the place, to be honest. When we took them out, we would be really doing a lot of work in that place, trying to save the place, to be honest, because it's, the financial situation of the place is really bad. And that's why the decision of keeping the bar open, the awkward part. My goal is to actually be able to just have the restaurant, because it's more viable for me too, because I cannot be traveling back and forth all the time. And I don't see a point that I think that we're doing a good job, That company wasn't, honestly. Yeah, they were doing, I didn't know nothing about that type of business. I'm more into restaurant industry, and I thought to get someone that actually knew about it, it would help me. Well, I guess it didn't, because it took it to another place. And it was really hard for me to get rid of them. Like, really hard. Because they made me sign contracts at the beginning, right? And even like that, there was one point that I couldn't. Like, I was working with the police too and trying to figure out how, with the different type of police that they are, because there's the other type that, what was it, coming, I don't remember the name of that, that take care of the licensing too. And they told me they will help me try to guide me, most of all, because I don't have experience in this department. But I think we were doing a lot of improvement. I have machines checking IDs too there. I have too many things, cameras and set up. I've been trying to work the most that I can, the fastest that I can with the budget that we have, right? And I think that we're doing a lot of improvement. We're getting to a point. I don't understand this because I did all the process. Probably no one told me nothing until too late. And I'm like, I was like shocked. Wow, what's going on? Why you didn't know about this? And basically, I want to know what are the points or why is they considering like not renewing the liquor license? Because I've been trying to cooperate with every authority that I can and trying to see those learn of my mistakes, try to make things better. And I don't think that we have any problem. There's some issues that happen in the parking lot in front, but that's out of my jurisdiction because that's totally away. We cannot get involved with something like that because I can get sued too if it gets to a point that I don't know what to do, right? But that situation is out of the place. I don't know if that involves us directly because I don't even know if they were probably one of those that could be customers. But you don't ever know because every bar goes out. So it's difficult to know that it's actually very, being from 100, we have several bars on our sites too. So it's hard because that's when that happens, it's outside, way outside of us, not even close to us. So I want some clarification. I'm sorry that I'm not here, and I couldn't hear what all the other people should say about it. But I'm here if someone can tell me what's going on.
Chief Smith.
Yes, sir. Sir, I have to respectfully disagree that the place is being well run. My officers spend an inordinate amount of time in the evenings at El Presidente. Time and time again, we have meetings on Monday where we talk about the issues that were not outside the bar, but inside the bar. Okay. Fights, arrests for underage drinking. Recently, the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms confiscated several $1,000s worth of alcohol that was being sold illegally inside of there.
Recently?
Yes. The neighbors have complained about noise that goes on way beyond the acceptable hours. The neighbors have also complained about the fights that spill outside of the parking lot. I've been there a couple times myself and seen the crowds that are coming out of there and the fights that are occurring as people are leaving because of their level of intoxication. Are you aware that some of your neighboring businesses have actually focused their cameras on your business instead of their business because the problems in the front of that place are coming from El Presidente? Over and over and over again, my officers have been there to try and explain what you need to do to clean that business up over and over and over again. It has not happened. Were you not into the police station and talked to the officers? Were you not invited to come down to the police station? Did they not explain to you several months ago what the issues were and why they were not getting resolved?
What I asked them is like to help me out, right? They talk even with the owner of the building. Because the owner of the building didn't know about the meeting either. So I'm like, we talk directly. After that, we never talk about any other situation because there was not really any other situation in there. I don't know if it was related directly with us, sorry. But it's just that I have seen the place so different than it was when these people were running the place. And the fights are lower. I'm not saying that there's not little altercations with people, but we try to separate them, take one out and hold the other one inside, just in case so they can cool down. And then we take the other one out. The problem is that we don't know if that people wait outside or get so clean it's out of our own control. I cannot handle that part. What happens when we close and they just meet with other guys outside or something like that. And even like that, when there was a fight in the parking lot, even my staff and I directly, when I was involved in there, it went directly to stop them. And we stopped them before something bigger they were going to commence.
Right. So, to summarize, underage drinking,